Breaking news, guys. Breaking news, man. Lil Jon's son is missing. I got the news from my girl, Reality TV, who is from Georgia.
Lil Jon's son walked out of his house one morning with no phone, no shoes, and then vanished without a trace. He hasn't been seen since. But what's sending chills down everyone's spine right now is a piece of footage that has suddenly gone viral. The video, allegedly shared by Lil Jon's rivals, is being interpreted by many as a disturbing message aimed directly at his father. This is every parent's worst nightmare. On the morning of February 3rd, 2026, at approximately 6 a.m., a 27-year-old man stepped out of his home in Milton, Georgia, a quiet, affluent suburb about 30 miles north of downtown Atlanta. He left without his cell phone, without personal belongings, and in what authorities would later describe as a possibly disoriented state. He didn't take a car. He didn't leave a note. He simply walked out the front door, headed toward the intersection of Baldwin Drive and Mayfield Road, and disappeared into the darkness of the early morning. His name is Nathan Murray Smith, known publicly by his stage name, DJ Young Slade. He is the son of Jonathan Smith, the Grammy-winning, multi-platinum producer, rapper, and cultural icon the world knows as Lil Jon. Within hours, the Milton Police Department issued a missing person alert, sharing Nathan's photo and physical description across social media and law enforcement networks. One detail made this case especially alarming. Nathan may have been disoriented and in need of immediate assistance. Without a phone, wallet, or ID, he had no way to call for help and no way for anyone to reach him. Authorities emphasized that there was no threat to the public, but urged anyone who encountered him not to approach directly and instead contact police immediately for a welfare check. Fox 5 Atlanta was among the first outlets to break the story, reporting that Nathan was last seen near Baldwin Drive in Milton. WSB-TV followed with video coverage, highlighting growing concern for his safety. Within 24 hours, the case had gone national. NBC News aired a detailed report. People magazine published the family's request for prayers and privacy, alongside a 2016 photo of Lil Jon and his son that underscored their close bond. USA Today echoed the plea, calling it an unimaginably difficult time for the family. BET focused on the emotional toll, while The Hollywood Reporter added that Lil Jon was estranged from Nathan's mother, Nicole Smith, introducing another layer of complexity to an already heartbreaking situation. As the story spread, social media exploded. YouTube commentary channels jumped in, and on Boss Talk TV, the host broke down the case with visible emotion, capturing the fear, confusion, and unanswered questions that now surround the disappearance. And then the footage surfaced.
Guys, breaking news, man. Lil Jon's son is missing. I got the news from my girl, Reality TV, who is from Georgia.
Their co-host, Reality TV, was among the first to share early details, repeating what was already spreading rapidly across Georgia media outlets.
It seems that maybe he was, I'm not going to say, I don't know if he was under the influence of a drug or whatever, but he ran out of the house barefoot with no phone or nothing.
The hosts of Boss Talk TV quickly urged their audience to spread the word and help raise awareness. They read directly from the official reports, confirming the key facts surrounding the disappearance. They then referenced TMZ's coverage as well, which had helped push the story onto the national stage.
Lil Jon is dealing with a scary situation right now, TMZ said. His son, DJ Young Slade, has been reported missing in Georgia. The same thing, the Milton Police Department put out a missing persons alert Tuesday saying 28-year-old Slade, legal name Nathan Murray Smith, ran out of his home on foot and hasn't been seen since. And he doesn't have a phone. He may be disoriented and he could be in need.
One especially alarming detail surfaced during the Boss Talk TV broadcast.
Of help.
A local outlet, Rough Draft Atlanta,
emerged during
reported
the
that
Boss
an
Talk
active
TV
police matter was
broadcast.
unfolding in Mayfield Park in Milton, the same area near where Nathan was last seen. But to fully grasp the weight of this disappearance, you have to understand who Nathan Murray Smith really is. Not just as Lil Jon's son, but as his own person. Born in 1998, Nathan was surrounded by music from the very beginning. Lil Jon has even shared stories about Nathan kicking during studio sessions while his mother was still pregnant. His mother was a dancer, and his father was in the middle of building the crunk empire that would go on to define an entire generation of Southern hip-hop. In a detail that feels almost surreal today, Nathan reportedly contributed vocals as a toddler to Lil Jon and the East Side Boys' 2001 single Bia Bia. And as he got older, he didn't just coast on his last name, he put in real work. He began producing beats in high school, trained formally at the Scratch DJ Academy, and later attended New York University. Step by step, he built his own foundation working as a DJ, producer, engineer, and eventually developing into an artist under the name DJ Young Slade. And by all accounts, his career was gaining real momentum. He collaborated with his father on Lil Jon's 2024 guided meditation and hip-hop project Total Meditation. The two reportedly worked together again on tracks connected to an upcoming farewell album. In March 2025, he released a single titled Feels, promoting it heavily on his Instagram under the handle Eladi. He also appeared on MTV's Family Legacy, where he talked about the moment he watched his father DJ and realized that was the path he wanted for himself. He performed at major events like One Music Fest in Atlanta in 2025, stayed closely tied to the Atlanta music scene, and worked with artists like Jim Jones. He even appeared alongside his father on Celebrity Family Feud. By every measure, Nathan wasn't just Lil Jon's kid. He was a young man building something real, producing, recording, and mixing his own music independently. That's why the emotional weight on Boss Talk TV felt so heavy. The host paused to reflect on what it must feel like to be a parent receiving news like this. And what made the situation even more chilling is that earlier in the same episode before the breaking news, DJ Young Slade had appeared in a previously recorded interview segment, talking about what it was like growing up as Lil Jon's son. Hearing Nathan describe his father as simply Dad, the man who drinks tea and watches movies at home, only to then see a missing person alert issued just hours later by the Milton Police Department, that kind of contrast is the type that stops you cold. This wasn't celebrity gossip. This was a family in crisis. As of February 5th, 2026, there were still no public updates confirming that Nathan Murray Smith had been found. Searches in nearby areas, including Mayfield Lake, were reportedly ongoing. Lil Jon himself had not spoken publicly beyond the family's request for prayers and privacy. The Boss Talk TV host captured the horror of that silence perfectly, describing the raw, gut-level fear of knowing your child is out there somewhere unreachable and being completely powerless to do anything about it. The conversation then shifted to the frustration families face when they're pressured for answers they don't have. Reality TV added a broader perspective, reminding viewers that prayers shouldn't only be reserved for celebrity families, but for anyone experiencing the same kind of nightmare.
Missing person, but
All of them.
missing people, because I know that he's a celebrity and they get, bigger publicity and all that, but prayers for everybody that's looking for a missing person.
Old enemies, new wounds, and the kind of beefs that never really die. Now, the title of this video references Lil Jon's Opps, a word in hip-hop culture that means opposition, enemies, rivals. And to understand why that word even matters in this situation, you have to look at the history of conflict that has followed Lil Jon throughout his career. Let me be clear, there's absolutely zero evidence linking any past rivalries to Nathan's disappearance. A deep search across news reports, social media, and hip-hop coverage shows no mention of DJ Young Slade being personally involved in any beef, rivalry, or street conflict. Right now, authorities appear to be treating this as a welfare and mental health concern, not a criminal investigation. But the reason this Opps angle hits so hard is because of the chilling timing. A viral clip surfaces. A previously recorded interview of Nathan talking about his father begins circulating online. And suddenly, those moments are being viewed through a darker lens because Lil Jon has spent decades navigating an industry where grudges don't always die and sometimes rivalries spill over into families. Jonathan Smith Lil Jon rose out of Atlanta's late 90s and early 2000s crunk explosion as its loudest, most dominant force. As the frontman of Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, he helped create an entire sound that defined an era. Get low, throw it up. The signature ad-libs, yeah, okay, became global cultural staples, parodied on Dave Chappelle and recognized everywhere from clubs to commercials. He later went on to produce Turn Down for What Would DJ Snake Win a Grammy, cross into EDM and even country collaborations, and somehow remain relevant for more than 2 decades. But dominance in Atlanta's competitive southern rap scene didn't come without friction. The most documented beef tied to Lil Jon involves Pastor Troy, real name Michael LeVar. Troy, another Atlanta rapper with a loyal fan base and an aggressive independent movement. The two once worked together on Throw It Up, a track from Lil Jon and the East Side Boys' 2002 album Kings of Crunk. That song became Pastor Troy's biggest moment of mainstream exposure and helped introduce him to a national audience. But according to Troy, that collaboration planted seeds of resentment that never went away. In interviews, including a notable Vlad TV appearance in 2021, Pastor Troy openly described frustration over how everything played out. No official music video was ever made for Throw It Up, something he blamed on label politics. No major follow-up collaborations happened. Troy claimed he felt shut out of Lil Jon's expanding empire, like he helped build the moment, but didn't get to share in the long-term opportunities that should have come with it. He revisited those feelings again in a 2022 Revolt TV appearance, speaking about it as part of a larger pattern in Atlanta's crunk-era politics. That bitterness finally erupted publicly in 2006 when Pastor Troy released Murder Man 2 on his album By Choice, or by force, a direct diss track aimed at Lil Jon, the BME label, and several affiliates, including Lil Scrappy and Crime Mob. The lyrics were raw and explicit, calling out names and unloading years of perceived disrespect, and the track made noise. But Lil Jon never responded. No diss record, no back and forth, no public feud, just silence. And in hip-hop, silence can be its own kind of message. But the tension around Lil Jon didn't stop there. His relationship with the Yang twins, who helped deliver crunk classics like Get Low and Salt Shaker, reportedly became strained over creative control, credit, and business issues. In interviews and podcast appearances, the duo has hinted at frustrations about how decisions were made, how the success was handled, and how certain contributions were treated behind the scenes. It wasn't necessarily a street-level feud, but the professional cracks were real. Lil Jon and the East Side Boys themselves eventually split after their 2004 album Crunk Juice, reportedly due to money issues, internal conflicts, and legal complications. That breakup pushed Lil Jon forward into a solo legacy, while the group faded out another separation that left tension in its wake. Then there were additional competitive disputes within Atlanta's scene. Dem franchise boys accused Lil Jon of heavily influencing or even borrowing from their sound during the Crump to Snap transition era. And there were rumors of friction involving Lil Scrappy during his time signed to BME, including reports that 50 Cent pressured Lil Jon over Scrappy's affiliations before Scrappy eventually left the label under unresolved circumstances. Through all of it, Lil Jon's response stayed consistent. He didn't feed the drama. He rarely addressed beef publicly. He didn't trade diss tracks. He kept moving forward, focused on production, collaborations, and cementing himself as a legacy figure rather than an active participant in rap wars. And in recent years, that public image shifted even further. From 2024 into 2025, Lil Jon began openly talking about his transformation physically, mentally, emotionally. He admitted that his crunk party persona was tied to heavy drinking and revealed that he pulled back after serious health scares involving his liver around age 50. He spoke about undergoing EMDR therapy, embracing meditation, and adopting an intense fitness lifestyle. He even competed in the 2025 Muscle Beach Championship. More than anything, he framed it as a change he made for his family. He specifically mentioned wanting to be healthier for his children, his young daughter born in 2024, and his older son Nathan. He spoke about overcoming what he described as suffering in silence, and became an unexpected advocate for wellness, self-care, and mental health. And that's what makes this situation hit even harder. Here is a man who spent the last 2 years publicly rebuilding his life around peace, family, and healing, only to now face the unthinkable. His 27-year-old son disappearing without a trace. Lil Jon's past relationship with Nicole Smith, Nathan's mother, ended in an arrangement that added complexity to an already fragile family dynamic. But by all public accounts, Lil Jon and Nathan remained close. They collaborated on music. They appeared together on television. And Nathan spoke about his father with genuine warmth, describing him not as a superstar, but as Dad, the tea-drinking, movie-watching man behind the explosive stage persona. That's why the Boss Talk TV host couldn't hide the emotion, because there's no way to stay composed when your child is missing. There's no script for that kind of fear. And there's no pain deeper than the helplessness of not knowing where your son is, or if he's even safe.
When you sitting there trying to figure, you don't know. He didn't take his phone. He might have had on shoes, might have didn't have on shoes. He don't have no personal items. That's the weirdest thing right there. Because now you got me worried. Now I'm worried about you because I don't know what the hell going on. What happened to my damn son is what I'm asking at that point. So, I just pray for Lil Jon, and I pray for the mother of the boy too, because she going through it. It ain't just Lil Jon because he got a name. It's family, brothers and sisters. Everybody's on high alert when somebody misses.
As a relatively low-profile DJ and producer compared to his father's global fame, Nathan has never been tied to public feuds, music industry drama, or personal conflicts. His social media presence before his disappearance was almost entirely focused on family moments, music promotion, and positive updates about his career. But hip-hop history teaches one brutal truth. When you carry a famous last name, your father's enemies can become your burden whether you asked for it or not. And that brings us to the darkest chapter of this story, when the children pay the price. Hip-hop's darkest pattern, what makes the footage of Nathan talking about his father feel so chilling, so deeply unsettling, when viewed now isn't because it proves anything. It doesn't. Nathan Murray Smith has no known enemies, no beef, no rivalries, and by every official account, his disappearance is being treated as a welfare and mental health situation, not a criminal case. But the fact that his name started trending alongside the word Opps, and the fact that a simple, heartfelt interview clip is now being framed as haunting, reveals something bigger. It reveals how conditioned we've become. Because in hip-hop culture, we've seen this pattern too many times. Children getting dragged into wars they never started. The public reacts that way because the worst has happened repeatedly. Look at one of the most disturbing modern examples, the 2025 escalation between Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. A feud that had been simmering for years suddenly crossed a line that should never be crossed when both women began targeting each other's children. Nicki Minaj posted cruel insults about Cardi's daughter, Culture, mocking her appearance and even threatening violence. She extended similar comments toward Cardi's younger child as well. Cardi fired back by mocking Nicki's son, making cruel remarks about his development and taking the insults into territory that shocked even longtime hip-hop fans. The backlash was immediate, because it wasn't rap anymore. It was adults weaponizing children. Then came the Drake and Kendrick Lamar clash. In 2024, arguably, one of the most calculated and brutal family-centered rap wars in modern history. Drake's Family Matters aimed directly at Kendrick's household, making allegations about infidelity and abuse. Kendrick responded with Meet the Grahams, addressing Drake's family members one by one, including Drake's son, Adonis, telling him directly, "I'm sorry that man is your father." Kendrick even alleged Drake had a hidden daughter. These weren't vague jabs. These were direct attacks on innocent kids used as ammunition. And the blueprint for that kind of move was set years earlier in 2018, when Pusha T dropped the story of Adidon, exposing Drake's son to the entire world before Drake had even publicly acknowledged him. A child's existence was turned into a weapon for competitive advantage, and the ripple effects changed rap beef forever. Even before that, Eminem drew one of the earliest lines in the sand, mention his daughter, and the consequences would be brutal. Yet rivals crossed that line anyway. Ja Rule, Everlast, and later Machine Gun Kelly all made comments involving Haley Jade, and each time it escalated into career-altering fallout. But the darker truth wasn't just Eminem's response. It was the fact that people kept doing it because children were seen as fair targets. And in the streets, that pattern turns deadly. In places like Jacksonville, Florida, rivalries involving rappers have spilled into real violence, where family members have been injured or killed. In other cities, shootings have taken place at events where children were present, including birthday parties, kids placed in danger simply because of who their parents were connected to. That is the ugly spectrum. It starts with social media insults. It moves into diss tracks. And at its worst, it ends with real-world tragedy. This is the cultural backdrop surrounding Nathan Murray Smith. Not because there is evidence he was harmed by a rival. Not because police have suggested foul play. They haven't. Authorities have made it clear this is a welfare situation. But the footage feels chilling because we live in a world where a rapper's child carries inherited risk simply by existing, where an interview clip of a young man describing his father as just dad becomes haunting the moment that same young man goes missing. And to be fair, Lil Jon's own documented rivalries were never the type associated with violence or family threats. His issues with Pastor Troy were largely one-sided, with Troy venting publicly while Lil Jon refused to engage. The tension with the Yin-Yang twins centered on money, credit, and business. Even the East Side Boys split was rooted in internal conflict and industry politics, not street warfare. These were professional fractures. But the precedent set by hip-hop culture, the Nicki and Cardi chaos, the Drake and Kendrick psychological warfare, the Pusha T exposure, the long history of rappers dragging children into conflict has created a reflex. So now, when a rapper's child makes headlines for any reason, the first instinct is to ask, who did this? Who are the Opps? What beef caused it? And that's why the Boss Talk TV host, toward the end of the broadcast, delivered a message that went beyond speculation. Because that's the real takeaway here. Not the rivalries, not the internet theories, not the gossip machine. The real story is simple and horrifying. A father cannot find his son. A young man walked out of his home on a February morning and has not been heard from since. And while the family begs for prayers and privacy, the internet turns their pain into content. Thanks for watching. Check out the other videos on the screen.